Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this fellow right here, Sorcerer and Stones. It is put out originally by Emperor S4 Games, and it is being carried over here to the Western world by Deep Water Games. So, it is from a company that I have shown a liking for in the past. I like the simplicity of the rules, and yet the depth that comes with that simplicity is usually rather refreshing. So, has this game continued in that trend, or has it kind of broken that mold a little bit? Well, let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works, and then we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. So here I have set up for you a 4-player game of Sorcerer and Stones. Now, the point of the game is to get the most points, and you can get points in a number of different ways. For example, these Earth Elemental tiles will give you a certain number of points based upon the number that's printed on them. So this one is worth 4, that Earth tile is worth 3, that Fire tile is worth 3, and so forth and so on at the end of the game. You also get points for different artifact cards that you have created by using the different stones that you'll get in the elemental fields over here. You'll also be getting these key refining stones, or chi refining stones, throughout the course of the game, and each one is worth 1 point each. So those are basically the different ways that you can get points. You can also, for every stone that you have left over at the end of the game, if it matches the runes, or rather the stone requirements on artifact cards that you have made over the course of the game, then you'll get extra bonus points for that as well. So there's just a number of different ways to get points, but that's the general thing. Whoever has the most points wins. Now on your turn, you have to do a number of actions, 6 actions to be exact, throughout the course of the game, and they have to be in this particular order. So the first thing you're going to do is play 1 or 2 cards from your hand. Then you're going to activate the alchemy zones, which is over here based upon the cards that you play over here. Then you are going to move the spirits in the elemental zone. So over here you're going to be able to move things based upon the kinds of stones that you get when you activate these stone fields. Then you're going to be able to gain the rewards of objective cards, which are right here, and we'll go over those in just a few moments. Then you refill the spirit zones using the refill supply over here, and we'll go over how you do that as well. And then finally, you have the opportunity to craft an artifact card, and that will end your turn, and then it goes on to the next person's turn, during which they will be going through those same actions in order. So the first thing you do on your turn is you use 1 or 2 of your magic cards. Now there are basically 4 different kinds of magic cards in the deck. There are, first of all, fly cards, which means that you can move your Taoist to any alchemy zone. So if I wanted to play this, me being green, I can move this guy over here like this. You can have 2 Taoists in the same zone, but at the beginning of the game, you're not allowed to start in the same zone. So that's what fly does. You can move your guy from one zone to any other zone that's out there. Then you also have this card in your deck, and there are multiple copies of these cards in the deck, but this one is called Spin, and this simply, you can choose an alchemy zone anywhere on the board and rotate it 90 degrees. It does not have to be the one that you're on. So for example, if I wanted to, if I'm here, I can rotate this guy 90 degrees like this, and that's cool. Then you also have a shift. Now shift usually has a color requirement, one for each of the different colors of stones. So you will choose a, for example, this one is a blue shift. So you can choose a blue stone and switch the location with a spirit stone of a different color. So if I wanted to play this one, I could choose to take this spirit stone and switch it with this spirit stone, since it was one of a different color. All right. Now you also have, let me go ahead and put this back as well. And then finally you have Quake cards. Now Quake cards basically says choose an alchemy zone and move it to another place, or switch it with another alchemy zone. All right, so you can basically use this one to take this guy and move it over here like that. Or you can simply maybe do something like this, where you simply switch these two like that. But you cannot make it to where there is not a continuously joined pathway between all of the alchemy zones. You can't isolate any alchemy zones by using the Quake card. But those are the 4 different cards that are available to you: Quake, Fly, Spin, and Shift. Okay, so on my turn, let's say that first of all I played a Shift card. Now the Shift card allows me to, it's a blue shift, so I'm going to shift this card here, this, and then I'm going to use my Fly card and go from here to here. Now, I have played 1 or 2 of my magic cards, so they would go over here in my discard pile. And then I am going to be able to activate the alchemy zones to obtain resources. So, whenever you are flying or shifting or doing any of these cards, you're trying to get either 3 elements in a row, either diagonally or horizontally or vertically, or you're trying to get at least a pair that are located on 2 different alchemy zones like this. Once you have done that, you can activate the zone that you're in and take 1 resource that matches any of those criteria. So for example, this yellow one here is in a row of 3, so I could take this one. And then these blues are neighboring each other, so I could take this one right here as well. Now with the now with the stones that I have taken here, I can move my guy over here in the elemental area regarding trying to get next to one of these different areas here, so I can take the topmost elemental tile that's over here. So since I had a blue and a yellow, I would be able to go 1 and 2. When you move over here in the spirit realm, you can only move orthogonally. You cannot move diagonally ever. So keep that in mind. Now, once I have moved the spirit element, I can also come in here and gain the reward of one of the objective cards. So since I got 2 spirit stones, I can get 1 Chi refinement stone and add it to my tableau, which is 1 point for me at the end of the game. Now, if I wanted to, I can activate any number of these. I activated this one already. I could, if I wanted to, spend one of these elemental zones, elemental stones, and move an extra place over here in the spirit realm. But I'm not going to do that because it doesn't really help me that much right now. And then finally, at the end of my turn, I can use these stones that I have procured, or ones that are left over from other, ones that are left over from previous rounds, and use them to craft one of these different artifacts out here. Well, I can't craft any of them because you have to have 3, but I'm pretty close to crafting this one, so maybe next turn I want to go after a brown elemental stone first. Well, once I am finished with crafting an artifact, then it goes to my opponent's turn. But before I craft those stones, I do need to make sure that I refill the empty areas here. So there are 2 here, and so I have 2 stones that need to be placed. The brown one's going to be placed first, and it has to be placed in the topmost. We go from left to right, top to bottom. So this guy is going to get placed here, using this as a reference point to see which way is left and what so forth and so on. And then the yellow one is placed here like this. Then you shift this down to say which one is the next one that's going to be refilled. Now on yellow's turn, they have 4 different shifts here. They can shift 2 different stones of their type. Now they are over here. All right, so first we're going to use the shift brown. And I'm going to take this one and shift it with the green like this. And then I'm going to use a green shift to take this green and shift it with this yellow right here, like so. All right, so these will go back to my discard pile. And now I'm going to activate the alchemy zone in which I am in, and I can take this one and this one because this one is adjacent to one of its own color, and this one was in a line of 3. All right, so these 2 are going to be added to my tableau here, and now I'm going to be able to move in the spirit realm over here. Now, I'm yellow, and I have a green and a brown, which I can't move to because there aren't anything here. But I do have this thing right here. I can use the green to move one, and then use the brown to go here. Now, if I use this green, it goes away, and it comes over here to the end of the supply track. But I was able to move, maybe get closer to that 4 over there. Now, I also gained 2 spirit stones during my turn, so I do get a key refinement stone. And so that is that. Now, I come back, and we need to refill all of these spaces first. So the first thing here is we go there, and then here, like that. And I cannot craft any artifacts because I don't have enough stones to do that. So it goes to my next person's turn. I'm going to go ahead and refill my hand back up to 4. And that will be the end of my turn. And that's how the game would continue until one of a few different conditions are met. The first condition that could end the game is that one player obtains 5 elemental runes of different types. Now, we all start with our own rune. We're considered as having our own kind of rune. So you can never take your own kind of rune, but you can take the other 4. So once everybody has once a player, rather, has taken one of each of the other 4 runes that are not their color, that will end the game. But everybody will be able to have an equal number of turns that way. If the artifact card supply is depleted, the game will end immediately. Another way is that if the Chi refinement stone pile is depleted completely, then that will also end the game immediately. Then, once the game has ended in one of those different ways, you simply count up the number of points that you have accrued over the course of the game. You get points for your elemental runes, you get points for your artifact cards, you get points for your Chi refinement stones, and then you also get points for any artifact card that has stone requirements on it that you have done, and you have them left over, that will give you bonus points. So for example, this one will give you 3 points automatically, and then you're also going to get +1, +2 because you have stones that match the requirement still left over. And whoever has the most points at the end of those calculations is the winner. So that's about it for Sorcerer and Stones. I do want to say right now on the upswing that I did enjoy this game. There are some caveats that I have for it, but this has followed that trend that Emperor S4 has really kind of dug out as a niche for themselves in the hobby. They have very deep, thought-provoking games, and yet the rules are very simple to learn, very simple to teach. It doesn't take very long at all to show somebody how to play this game. But the choices that you have to make are sometimes very excruciating. Sometimes the not knowing exactly what to do because you have so many different possibilities. All of those kinds of situations follow, even though the rule set is so very simple. And that's what I really enjoy about Emperor S4 games. You have to play the games in a number of times in order to see the depth that's there. Sometimes, though, at the first play, you can see the depth that's there, but you just haven't really explored it yet. So my first pro for the game is the fact that this is a tactilely and a aesthetically pleasing game. The components that are used are very good components. I like that the alchemy stones that are in there are cubes, and they are big, chunky cubes. They're not small, fiddly ones that are hard to manipulate. Now, with that having been said, I do wish that they had used something other than wooden cubes for them, but I get it. It was probably some type of financial decision to keep the price point in the neighborhood of where they wanted it to be. So I get that, but at the same time, they are good components. I like the meeples that are plastic and they have that translucent look to them. I like the artwork that's on all of the different cards. I think that the artist did a very good job with that. Steven Tsai. And so that is... the component quality is very good with this game. I like also the diversity with which they design their components. And I'm using the alchemy zones and spirit zones as a reference for that, because each tile is a spirit zone, but on the other side is also a alchemy zone. Now, the reason they did that is because these configurations on all of the different spirit zones are different. So you actually use 4 different spirit zones every time you play the game. They're randomly chosen. Finally, my final pro for a game is simply that it is fun to play. It is not a drudgery of a game where you feel like you are working or something to that effect. It is an interesting thing to manipulate and spin and twist and shift and fly around and do all of these different things. It's fun to manipulate the board in such a way that you can score as many points as possible. So that's fun, but it does unfortunately lead me into my first con, and that is the analysis paralysis that will probably take part in this game during your turn is great. And the reason is because the board shifts so much before it comes around to your turn, you really can't plan ahead, because it seems like every time you do try to plan ahead, the person in front of you or a couple of players in front of you mess up whatever you are trying to do, and you don't have enough cards to play on your turn, since you can only play 2, to fix, so to speak, and put the board back the way you want it to be in order to do that big point scoring move that you had planned. So because of that, you have to wait until your turn to actually look at the board and see how it lays, and then make your decisions on how you can best manipulate the board to score the most points. All in all, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10 because I do enjoy the game. I do enjoy the component quality. I enjoy the artwork. Emperor S4 really is, I guess you could say, down my alley as far as the kinds of games they make and how compatible I am with them. They're not always my cup of tea. I've seen a couple of different of their games that really haven't struck my fancy. Roundhouse was just a little bit too heavy, a little bit too convoluted for me. And Herbalism was kind of the same way, but on the other end of the spectrum. It was just a little bit too strange, I guess you could say. So there have been hits and misses from Emperor S4, but this one, for me, was a hit, a 7 out of 10. And so if you have the opportunity to go out and give it a try, please do so. And as I always say, try before you buy if at all possible, but if not, do your research, see what other people have said, and then make your own informed decision. But that's it from me for Sorcerer and Stones from Emperor S4 and Deepwater Games. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side.